I'm Rick Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to the Sidebar, a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today we're talking to Josh Burgess with Lucy J's Bakery here in Crosstown, so stay with us for a conversation with Josh. Josh, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I started my day, and we have classical music in the background because we are on the 10th floor of the central atrium within Crosstown, still flooded out of our office and podcast studio, but this makes it kind of classy. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's just that much more important. I should have a tie on. But we're here. I started my day with some Lucy J's bread. There's a little plug right there, and I start most of my days with some Lucy J's bread. But before we talk about you as a baker and a bakery and all that, talk for people who aren't familiar with the mission and the kind of background of Lucy J's. Talk about that.
All right. So Lucy J's started so that we could purposefully hire family members of the families of the Dorothy Day House. And the Dorothy Day House is a transitional home for families that are experiencing homelessness. When they started, it was one of the only places that kept the whole family together, gave them the tools and the support that they needed to get them back and get themselves back into stable housing. They currently operate 3 houses. Each house can house 3 families at a time, and they stay there pretty much as long as they need to, as long as they're working on their goals and doing everything they need to do. So my wife and I we talked for a long time and dreamed about having our own place. I've been in the restaurant business for most of my adult life. And we decided when we did that, we were going to purposefully hire those people. We pay $15 an hour, which when we opened was not even being done by Target and Amazon and all that. We were one of the first places to do that. We just find that the families, a lot of them are underemployed or unemployed. They need a place to work that is going to be mindful that life happens and that they are in the situation they're in, and that will not fire them for missing work. You know?
Oh, really? Just down to that? I mean, it's a huge thing, but a small thing. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in the restaurant business in a long time. A lot of times, if you can't come to work, it doesn't matter why. They've got 20 more people waiting over here to come in, so they'll boot you out for little things. And so we really try to be mindful of life happening. And when you've got 4 or 5 kids and one of them is sick, then or one of them has to leave school, or one of them has to go to the doctor, or all the things that most people can easily move around, their schedule between them and other family members or whatnot. A lot of these folks don't have the support system. So
what's interesting is again, because I live in Crosstown and we're flooded out, so I'm working from home, and so I'm here even more. And so I'm in your place, sometimes a couple times a week, sometimes just once a week. I hadn't put all this together. I honestly, and I'm not just saying this, consistently the people who work within Lucy J's are remarkably happy, kind of even borderline joyful. Mm-hmm. They're funny. They're just, there's a whole vibe about, I'm not saying every single person by any stretch, and I don't want to make too much of it, but it's just an interesting juxtaposition to the difficulties that so many of them are going through or have gone through.
Well, we really try to create an environment where people are happy. I mean, they know that I have their back and they're going to have my back.
Yeah.
And we've put together this group of people who, some of them are restaurant lifers. One of our bakers is classically trained. He's worked in resorts and all kinds of stuff around the country, and he's here now kind of leading our wholesale bread production. And then we have high school kids from Crosstown High. They're very handy because they get out of school at just the right time to kind of help us close up and finish out our day, where a lot of the parents, the single parents or the parents who are responsible for picking up their kids from school, need to be leaving.
Sure, yeah.
And so we kind of fill the gaps with high schoolers. Plus, high schoolers are understanding when you don't give them hours because someone else needs the hours. They're fine. They're not really worried about it.
Again, I'm Eric Barnes, and we're here with Josh Burgess from Lucy J's Bakery. We're now in the hidden atrium because the classical music, while lovely and an incredible ambiance, was getting a little too loud. So Natalie Van Gundy here, our producer, has moved us down to the secret atrium, which you've seen because you're located here. But a lot of people, Natalie had never seen this atrium. It's very cool. So let's talk about, we'll shift back to the mission. We'll kind of just bounce around, but partly just baking. So talk about why baking for you. And you talked about being in the restaurant industry for all those years. Was it always as a baker, or did you start and kind of move into that?
No, when I was in high school, I got a job at Macaroni Grill. Okay. So I started cooking there. I just kind of always liked being in the kitchen, especially growing up at church. I always kind of gravitated to the kitchen, and for some reason the adult guys would let me in the kitchen, but they wouldn't let all the other kids in the kitchen. So I learned a lot there, and then I moved into the restaurant business. And I worked my way through college at Macaroni Grill, and then I did leave the restaurant business for a couple of years to teach middle school.
Oh, wow.
At Lamplighter Montessori School out in Cordova. Uh-huh. And then that first little economy issue happened, the downturn, and so all 3 or 4 of my positions were eliminated at the same time. So I came back to the restaurant business, and I managed mostly corporate places, Payway. I was at Chili's for a number of years, and I did Aramark food service, business dining at the FedEx locations for a while. Yeah. And then my wife started cake decorating. She took classes at Michael's, I think, and that was to kind of have something to do outside of the house, away from me and the kids for, at least one night a week. And so her teacher was trying to get out of cake decorating, so she started sending her business to Tracy, and so we started trying to do it out of our house. And so I would bake the cakes. Her and her mom would decorate them.
And this was roughly what year?
Oh, geez.
Is it mid-teens?
Yeah, probably mid-teens.
2014, 2015.
Yeah, something like that. And then we never, that never really got off the ground because we both had, full-time professional jobs and two kids at the time, and then we added the third. And so, but we started volunteering at the Dorothy Day House, and my wife eventually became a Vista volunteer at the Dorothy Day House. And so when this beautiful building was being constructed, the realtor who was in charge of finding the retail tenants was also helping the Dorothy Day House with some sort of realtor business.
Was that Sean?
Yes,
Massey? Sean Massey. Oh yeah, friend of Daily Memphian. He's been on panels for us at our events and so on. Sean, and a commercial real estate guy who does a lot of shopping center group, and also he is a really committed guy to all kinds of community organizations.
Yeah,
so shout out Sean Massey.
He was helping them, and he was also filling these spots. And so Sister Maureen, who was the executive director of the Dorothy Day House at the time, asked if they were looking for a bakery, and he said that they wanted a bakery, but the handful that they had here in the city, no one was really interested in uprooting to come here. And she said, okay, well, you can have a Dorothy Day House bakery. Yeah. Tracy's going to run it. Let me go get Tracy. And that kind of started the ball rolling. Yeah. And so we went through a bunch of different tastings. We met Todd and
Todd Richardson,
and we got approval from all of them, but then we had to go find money. So they led us to a bunch of different investors who all said, it's not a no, but it's not for me, or it's not a no, but Yeah. And then the last one that we talked to said, it's not for me, but it's also not a for-profit company. So he suggested that we go and completely rewrite the business plan. He put us into connection with some foundations and whatnot that would possibly fund us. And so we started down that path. And after about 1.5 years of construction and all that craziness that comes with that, we opened here.
So 501c3 nonprofit.
Yeah, I think it's a different set of letters and numbers, but it's under the 501c3 somewhere. Yeah. And so we we intentionally hire and do job training, which is something that we hope to expand here pretty soon. Yeah. Just to be more of a detailed, job training program. And that way we can help more people
maybe make more of a career out of it.
Yeah.
Versus, okay, that makes sense. Again, we're here with Josh Burgess from Lucy J's Bakery. Let me take a break and do some housekeeping and come back with a bunch of questions for Josh. But in the meantime, I'm Eric Barnes, and this is The Sidebar. It airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30, focused on the community, arts, culture, everything in between. It's not just a radio show, though. It's one, Natalie Van Gundy, we have a major breaking news here. There are 2 boxes of baked goods that Josh has brought, and as I was doing my normal housekeeping, Natalie opened them, and Josh is used to this, but Natalie and I both went, saw there's the sunlight through the atrium window. So we'll talk about the baked goods in a second here. Maybe we'll get a picture as well, but you can't have any if you're listening, sorry. But the Sidebar is not just a radio show. It's one of many weekly podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including the Memphis Tigers podcast, our food podcast, Sound Bites with Chris and Holly, which also airs here on WYXR every Thursday at 11. We also have a Memphis Grizzlies podcast with, again, Chris Harrington and Drew Hill. All of our podcasts are on the Daily Memphian site, as well as iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get this show, The Sidebar, and Sound Bites, our food show, on WYXR at WYXR.org, or download the WYXR app. That includes all the talk shows on WYXR, all the music shows, archives of all the shows. So it's a great way to keep up with WYXR and all the shows there. Also, if you aren't, consider becoming a supporter of WYXR. It's nonprofit, listener-supported radio. You can become a member. You can do a one-off donation. Go to WYXR.org or to the app and learn more about all that. And if you're not a subscriber to the Daily Memphian, consider becoming a subscriber. We also are a nonprofit. It's a theme today. We are the largest newsroom in the region, and we are supported by subscriptions and advertising, donations. So please do, if you are a reader and a listener, and you're not yet a subscriber, don't consider becoming one. Recently on the Sidebar, we had Burgess, the artist, whose exhibit is still on at Crosstown Arts, I believe, for at least another few weeks. I think it's through mid-April, but it's very cool. Burgess, you've seen his murals around town. You may not have known his name, but you've seen they're very cool all over the place, downtown, midtown, all over. And we also recently had Matisse Moore. Speaking of nonprofits and great missions, Matisse is the relatively new head of Boys and Girls Club of Memphis, and he has a fascinating conversation, not for anything I did. Coming up soon, we've got, I think, Lauren Kennedy, who we've bounced around like 600 times. It's like the drummer in Spinal Tap, except no one dies. This has been my fault. I moved around, and I think Lauren got sick. Anyway, she used to be with Urban Arts, but she now has a relatively new gallery downtown, and we'll talk to her about that. We also have Nikisha Cole, the Shelby County Arts Liaison, coming up in the next few weeks. I should also mention Behind the Headlines, which we do with the folks over at WKNO. We recently had a couple of state legislators on talking about all kinds of things going on with the legislative session. We had a group of business leaders who've called for more intervention by the state. We had, coming up soon, Bill Hargrave, the president of the University of Memphis. I don't even think I knew that. I'm looking at Natalie Van Gundy. I knew we were trying to get Bill on, but that's exciting because he's coming on. We have nothing to talk about, but we'll figure something out. But I should also know U of M is a really important partner in WYXR. So all joking aside, we look forward to having him on. I think that's all the housekeeping I have. What did you bring us? So we're going to have to describe this because we're doing food.
The best I've ever had.
Good Lord. Okay, so Natalie Van Gundy says these
Those are cinnamon rolls.
Iced cinnamon rolls are the best she's ever had in her life. Trust her.
I have had no one argue with that except for this 9-year-old at the farmer's market.
He's lying.
Well, she claimed that her grandmother made the best, and I said, but have you had mine? The mom got mad at me for starting a fight with a 9-year-old.
Did you physically accost her?
No,
that's
but
not a fight.
I did start an argument. And then the 9-year-old said, Mom, I need $3. She got $3. She never came back, so I think I won.
I think you won.
But we also have a cinnamon sugar croissant, and then we do croissant pockets. These are 2 of the fruit ones. There's a cinnamon apple or the lemon blueberry.
Wow.
And then the box below that has
we're moving the boxes. This will be, no, I'm not moving it towards Natalie. I'm moving it away from
has a almond croissant.
Good Lord.
Pecan pie and apple pie, and then that is a German chocolate brownie. So it's a fudge brownie with a layer of pecans and coconut, and it is it goes very well with a little ice cream on top.
Well, did you bring the ice cream?
Well,
I mean, come
no,
on.
we don't actually
you
have
can't
ice
just
cream
throw that
right
out,
now,
Josh,
but
and then,
you can
disappoint
take it
me.
home in the-
All right, I'm going to take a corner of this and eat. I know Natalie loves when we eat on the show. That's always a favorite thing.
Sounds great.
It sounds great. I always, when we used to, it makes me weep a little. Before Jennifer Biggs died, and we did all those potato chip ones and the candy bar ones.
Yeah,
I would
listened to those,
purposely
actually.
eat into the microphone and just to make Natalie mad. So I'm going to hide my mic and I'm going to have so it was again German chocolate.
German chocolate brownie.
I love brownies so much. I love all of this so much. So this is a danger. Thank you for bringing these.
I want to ask a question, and I might edit it out. When you make brownies, how do you ensure that you get that nice crinkle on the top?
I really don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, that is what
I
we...
don't do that.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, we do bake that one for over an hour. We bake it for a little while. Well, no, we put a lid on it now all the time while it's in the oven because the convection oven was drying out the top.
These are not dry. The question from Natalie was, so we don't have to, it was, how do you get the crinkly, it's almost like papery, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
That kind of crinkle on the top. It's so good.
That is one of our, is one of our, people drive from all around to get the German chocolate brownie.
So you've got your location here. That's your only location, right?
Right now,
Your
that is
retail
our only location,
So
right.
are you thinking about trying to open another location?
Well, we've really outgrown the production space in this building.
I don't know how you do it. It
We're
seems really small.
currently wholesaling to 5 or 6 restaurants, hotels, grocery stores, plus everything that we do in the shop, and 2 farmers market. Well, 2 farmers markets starting in April. Right now, we're still at Cooper Young. Memphis Farmers Market starts up downtown on April 6th, I believe. So it's getting a little tight. So I would love to be able to move production to another location.
Yeah.
Hopefully another location that could eventually have its own little retail area.
Got it.
And that way we could also employ more people because right now we max out about 4 or 5 bodies in that space.
Yeah.
And
It's a cool space, but it's small.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's actually twice the size of the one that we originally signed up for when we signed our
really?
lease. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad we didn't get the other space.
Yeah.
Because we would have long outgrown that space.
So you said your stuff's available right now, Cooper Young Farmers Market, downtown when it opens. What other locations in town?
Well, the only other retail location would be the South Point grocery store.
Yes,
downtown.
I get your stuff there. Yeah. By
we
the way,
stock
shout out
that.
to that grocery store. It's
Yeah,
a great
it's
grocery
very
store.
nice. And it's actually doing really well. I mean, as far as the bakery stuff,
Yeah.
I'm having to deliver multiple times a week
Yeah.
and sometimes to come in and I'm like, where did it all go?
Yeah.
Which is good. But
Yeah.
we normally take our breads down there. I do want to expand the offerings there as well.
Yeah.
It just has to be really shelf stable for us to put it down
What
there.
does that mean,
'cause
shelf stable?
It needs to last for a
Oh,
few
okay.
days. So, our croissants, they're amazing fresh. And if you get them bagged up fast enough, you can make them last a few days, but I wouldn't want to sell it,
Gotcha.
multiple
right.
days
and then,
later.
Yeah, and then that hurts your brand anyway if somebody's getting a 5-day
Yeah.
old.
So I do want to put cinnamon rolls down there. Cinnamon rolls are one of the things that I didn't want to make for a long time. When we first opened, we actually opened in the hallway by the elevator. I had one of our display carts on wheels.
Yes.
And I would rent the church health kitchen. I would come in at 3 a.m, bake it all, push it out into the hallway. We had one employee who would come in and sell it, and then I would come back around 1 o'clock and clean it all up. So I didn't want to have to make another dough.
Gotcha.
So we made the cinnamon sugar croissant. That was my answer to cinnamon rolls. And it was also because we kept trying different ways of doing cinnamon rolls, and none of them worked.
So this thing on top here, again, great podcasting, but that's a croissant?
No, those are all cinnamon
Oh,
rolls. These
okay.
4 are cinnamon rolls. That's the cinnamon sugar croissant.
Oh, well, now I have to eat this because I pinched it. Okay, so this is the cinnamon. I got confused.
Yeah.
It'll be terrible? Why? This is what you said.
You said,
Natalie
"I'll
Van Gundy
have
said
to
this.
eat it." It's so good.
Oh, that's really good. I never eat like this. This is so exciting for me because it's really just part of the job. This is fantastic. The life, we were talking a little bit when we were walking up here. Right now, your life is a little bit more normalized in terms of time. But,
A little bit, yes.
But like, what's your right now? Your week looks like what in terms of when you start, all that kind of stuff.
Normally, like Mondays we're closed, but I come in and I prep for, should be 2 or 3 hours, usually turns into 6 to 8 hours, prep and try to do the paperwork. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I pretty much come in right before we open, just to support the guys that are there. Try to do paperwork. And then right now I'm running the deliveries in the afternoon. That way I can go by each, wholesale customer or whatever and check on them and make sure the deliveries get out and everything.
Yeah.
And then Saturdays I usually get here kind of early.
So this is what I'm fishing for. It's like the time of day that, notoriously bakers start at ridiculous hours.
Yeah, most of the time, like Wednesday, I'm the only baker, so I get here at 4:00. And I usually leave around 4:00, 4 or 5 o'clock. So 6 days a week, about 12 hours a day, 10 to 12 hours a day. And then I have other team members who come in around 2 or 3, and they do the bulk of the production and get it all rolling.
And again, we're talking to Josh Burgess with Lucy J's Bakery. What were the restaurants where you are right now? If you don't mind, right? No reason.
I'm not sure they all want us to talk about it. But,
no, that's fine.
We do supply Global here in the building with their bolillos for the Torta Thursday.
Okay.
And then it's just a handful of other. I know Bog and Barley is usually okay with us talking about it. So we do the sourdough and the rye Bog and Barley.
Okay. Is your wife still involved with the business?
Not as much. She is the executive director of the Dorothy Day House now.
Okay.
And so that takes up.
That's a full-time job. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Again, I'm Eric Barnes. This is the Sidebar. We're here with Josh Burgess from Lucy J's Bakery. We had another little break because there was it wasn't quite an alarm. It was just a kind of high-pitched humming that Josh, who's been in the building working for nonstop for 5+ years, and I've lived here for almost 6, never heard that sound before.
Yeah, that's a new one.
0 for 2 on atriums today, but we're going to make it with just the few minutes we have left with you today. Baking, it seems like it's just kind of taken off, right? Not just in Memphis. There's lots of sort of, one-off bakers, and there's the Great British Baking Show, and there's all of it. Does it, as someone who's been in this business for so long, and we'll come back to what I was going to ask you before the buzzing started or the ringing started about working in sort of more corporate restaurants. But the baking, does it shock you? Does it make natural sense? What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's just that, baking is for a lot of people, I think it's ingrained in your childhood. Yeah. Somebody in your life baked, or your family, you guys are constantly talking about the Cecil's Bakery, which I lived in Memphis during that time, but my family never went to the Cecil's Bakery. But I think it's a remembrance of being in the kitchen with your grandmother, or holidays, or even something as simple as that special time your parents would always get those cinnamon rolls from the grocery store and bake them in the oven. It's just, I think it just reminds us of things. And then, if you have something like a high quality item that, tastes good, then, people flock to it.
Yeah. It reminds me of being at my grandma Barnes's house, and she would make homemade bread.
Mm-hmm.
She'd start in the morning and it would sit on top of the fridge,
mm-hmm.
and, she'd make it completely from scratch, and she would make jam, I think usually blackberry or raspberry jam from scratch. And those are great memories. Those are great memories.
My grandmother made strawberry preserves and always brought us the sourdough from Cracker Barrel, I think.
Yeah.
And that, we would sit around and eat that. And
yeah.
What
was it? Now you're working nonstop. I feel like everybody who works in restaurants works nonstop. Whether you are the proprietor and owner, or you work for more of a corporate or a chain. But what was the big transition from this relatively small by comparison to Aramark or comparison to Macaroni Grill? Like, do you prefer this? Did you prefer that?
Well, I think I prefer this.
Yeah.
I personally have had a pretty big learning curve. When you're working at those big companies, you pay the bill by sending it off to corporate, or corporate handles all the taxes, and they remember the food permit bill that's due, and so that I've had a pretty big learning curve on that. But it is nice to be able to just kind of be able to get to know the people around you, and get to go through all those hurdles and hopefully, still be here.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. It is amazing. I mean, when on what we do on Sound Bites and our food writers, and I get to interview people who are in this, whether it's restaurants or food or whatever, that there's this incredible commitment people have. It's like, it's almost unlike anything else. The level, because the time commitment, and then your son worked here a bunch when he was in high school, and it was a family affair. It's an amazing thing. A couple of minutes left. You talked about trying to figure out a way to expand. What would you, in an ideal world, what product or products or items would you add?
We always talk about adding different breads, and we get people all the time that come in and say, have you ever thought of doing this? And it's like, well, yeah, we've thought about it, but there's about 10 million options that we could add to this bakery. And, we try things here and there, and we'll put something new out and see if it sticks. I'm amazed at the things that stick. I never wanted to make cinnamon rolls because I didn't want to have another dough, but now that we kind of found the right mix of the ratio of what kind of bread to use for it, what kind of filling, what kind of topping, and we figured that all out. Now it's a staple item.
Yeah.
The Memphis Blue cookie that your son loves so much.
Chandler Van Gundy, big fan of the Memphis Blue.
That was an accident. That was we made that to try to get a snow day to happen for the kids. It was kind of a gimmicky thing. Made enough to last a few days, and then everyone was like, wait a minute, where did the blue cookie go? And so you never really know what's going to stick and what's going to go to the wayside. But I wouldn't mind trying different fillings on eclairs and different fillings on cinnamon rolls, and you can do all kinds of crazy things with bread.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. So
we can't stop making the sourdough bread because I'm addicted.
The sourdough is
the
garlic and herb bread is really good too.
My favorite's cheddar jalapeno. Makes a mean grilled cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
If we were able to move production somewhere else, then we would have that space in our current location to maybe do some sandwiches and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Be able to add on stuff like that.
But you do the pockets, like the kind of little pepperoni pocket, like all that. You can get the savory, as they say.
We definitely have savory, and they sell very well.
Yeah.
People come from all over for the ham pockets. And pizza's a favorite. It's probably my favorite, I think.
It's so good.
And we've tried other ones, and we'll rotate those in and out as well. So
we're about out of time. I always try to ask people, because YXR is fundamentally a music station, what was your first concert?
I didn't really concert very much, but there were a couple in college. I think I went and saw Cross Canadian Ragweed. They're from Oklahoma. That's my wife's influence. Great band, but they played one of the bars on Highland over there. And I think I went and saw Fuel one time.
Nice. Like maybe
in college.
Pyramid.
No, it was on campus.
On campus?
The Rose Theater. Because it had just opened.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. 20-something years ago, probably.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But as far as first, it was one of those two.
Josh Burgess from Lucy J's Bakery, thanks very much. We really appreciate it. I should say, once again, a shout out to Tresment Manor, which is sponsoring the show. We appreciate very much their support. But that is all the time we have this week. If you missed any of the show, you can get the full episode online at wyxr.org or get the WYXR app. You can also go to Daily Memphian, go to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast to get the full episode. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.